introducing to the program, Adrian Holmes.
I hadn't heard that one yet.
That's your 2024 sound effect, Adrian. Would you want to hear it one more time, just to give the listeners
absolutely.
one more go at that? Oh, it's good to have you on the program, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Adrian Holmes, in case the listener does not know, is the co-host of a very of a great podcast called Super Gamer Boys, a very popular podcast people love, people on this show love. And among other things, Adrian, how else would you describe yourself? Other than that?
I have been called, I go by many a name. King of Games.
Mm-hmm.
I've been called Mr. Good Taste. I've been called
Mr. Good Taste.
Mr.
I like
Good
that.
Taste. Yes, because for people who don't know, I am a really big champion for indie games,
Mm-hmm.
and usually my recommendations for people, they hit pretty good. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been called. I got good taste, so I'm Mr. Good Taste.
I love that. Yeah, we've Super Gamer Boys is a podcast that you do with Garrett Morlang.
I do.
We almost had Garrett on this episode, but unfortunately couldn't make it.
Mako poisoning.
Yeah, food poisoning?
Mako poisoning.
What? He had Mako poisoning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need to reach out. I haven't even sent flowers. I haven't even gone to Erith's church to buy flowers to send to him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully he'll pull through. We'll see on Monday.
Your podcast is super relevant, I think, to this episode today that we're going to be discussing, because you invited me on about a year ago, I think, to do a special episode on the game Crisis Core. So tell me a little bit about like that series that you do for that show. Are you still doing that?
So that was a seasonal engagement.
Right.
It was our show Super Gamer Book Club, where we picked we picked a game once a month, and we would play through it throughout the month, and then at the end of the month we would come in and review it book club style. And the month that you were on, we did Crisis Core, and I think that was in anticipation because we knew that was it Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think, was coming out?
It was
coming
out.
Integrate, I think, was coming out.
Integrate, yeah, but we didn't know that the remake was coming out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was it, and it was announced in the middle of us playing, getting prepared for it. I was like, should we maybe pivot? Nah.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
mean it was good because I always wanted to play through and finish that PSP game. Like, even if the remake had come out, I would still be curious about what that PSP experience was like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll get to Crisis Core here in a second. I'm really excited to talk to you about it. Again, you know, when I originally started conceiving of these episodes, because, you know, we're going to be doing Final Fantasy VII content leading up to Rebirth this month. It's the biggest thing coming out, I think.
Can't wait.
I don't know. Can you think of a bigger thing coming out in the near future? I think this might be the biggest. At least Q1.
That I can think of.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, the only thing that might stand up to it is Persona.
Oh, sure. Persona
3 Reload, the remake of Persona 3.
Yeah. Which,
as far as geeks are concerned,
as far as JRPG nerds are salivating for. I have also been playing that, by the way, so I do want to get into it a little bit. But I do. But yeah, originally I was like, okay, well, I'll talk about the original game. And then Advent Children and maybe like the remake leading up. But then I was like, well, that's not where it begins. The story technically begins even further back with Crisis Core. Okay, well, we'll get into all that. I'm really excited to talk about it with you because it's been a minute since I've thought about or revisited this game. And you know, the remake came out 4 years ago, so that's, you know, that was in my rear view for a while. But what in your personal gaming life, what have you been playing? I gotta know.
Ooh boy, what have I been playing recently? I have been I am one with the Pal World recently.
No
That
way.
game, yes, that game has
No
its hooks in
way.
me, dude. I
Explain
don't know.
yourself. Tell me about this game. I need to know about Pokemon with guns. No one can. Every time we've talked about it on the show, it's been hypothetical. No one's played it.
So can I expound on it a little bit?
Yeah.
So they call this game Pokemon with guns. I've been playing for about 30 hours now, and I have not fired a bullet.
That's good to know that you don't. It isn't just like the gimmick of it.
Right. It's some of the pals can, and that's what they call them, pals, not Pokemon.
Sure.
Some of them have the ability to fire guns, and you can have guns yourself, but I feel like that's totally optional. They give you a whole bunch of other weapons that you can use outside of that if need be. It really feels more like an Ark survival or like a Minecraft kind of deal versus like it's a Ark game with a Pokemon seasoning on it.
Oh, I like that description.
Right.
Do you like art games?
I like survival when it's not too deep. Like,
right.
You have to go to the bathroom. You have to go to the bathroom
yeah.
again. You know? No, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just, the top levels, I'm okay with that just
right.
for survival games. And that's what this is providing for me. So, yeah, simple enough to get into. And once you start building that base, it's the classic trap. Well, I could upgrade that.
Yeah.
I could do this.
Yeah.
I could go get this material. Next thing you know, it's 30 hours gone.
Record-breaking Steam numbers and stuff. That
crazy.
game is crazy. Yeah. Is it a recommend though? I can't tell.
Oh, that's a tough one. It definitely is still early access.
Sure.
You can definitely feel it. There's a lot of jank. There's a lot of really bad collision detection, especially for a game that encourages you to climb mountains.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can miss. Sometimes you can fall. You can clip through the world. So if you're okay with that, I would say give it a shot, especially if you like survival. I would say if you are a hardcore Pokemon fan, like a traditionalist Pokemon fan, I would not recommend this for you because it is not that kind of game at its core.
Got it. Yeah. Are you playing as a humanoid person or are you playing as the creatures?
No, you're playing as the human.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it looks nuts and all the news around it has been I guess fun is the word. I hate to say, fun because it's been so chaotic, like there's lawsuits pending and like people are getting a cease and everyone's getting upset about it. Or it's also raising all these questions about AI and AI generated character models and stuff. What do you think about all that stuff? Is that any of that stuff like interesting to you?
It's definitely concerning. As being an advocate for artists in the arts, as far as I understand right now, there is no 100% proof that artificial intelligence is being used as far as what they are assuming it's used for. Because a lot of game devs these days use AI. They're just real hush-hush about it for certain things.
Yeah.
Now, if it, comes to light that they are doing that, it's out. It's got to go.
I wonder, like, too, because I'm trying to think about what I think of AI use in art and games and film and television and stuff. And I guess, like, there's just like lines I wouldn't cross. Like,
for me, it would be if it's doing a job that an artist could do feasibly.
Yeah.
Then yeah.
I'm trying to think of how I feel about like if AI was generating like NPC character models. Like would I care?
No, not really.
Probably not. Yeah, or like building.
If it was designing the models and generating them, then I'd have an issue. Because that could have been a designer's job to make the models. Now, if you want to use AI to spread them around the world, no problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's raising a lot of questions because it really is just, in some ways, can be used as just a corner cutting thing in development to like sort of get around having to do lots and lots and lots of work. And in some ways, I can understand why that you would really find that so helpful, especially because on one hand, it's like, yeah, it is taking away from a designer's job. But on the other hand, it might be avoiding crunch like, which is a whole other issue. So it's
major issue.
It's an interesting idea. I would obviously stay away from games, I think, that used AI primarily to like design anything crucial or write game dialogue. I think we always hypothesized that that Spider-Man 2 game was written by AI just because there was so much dialogue that seemed off, just like little off
here and there.
I doubt that's the case, but it is that thing now where like anytime we hear bad dialogue, we're always going like, uh-oh, it's AI. It has to be.
It's here.
A human would never write Miles to say that, That's interesting. Anything else you've been playing?
Let me go through the Rolodex here.
Yeah, flip through it.
Oh, I've been on my little, whenever waiting in the grocery line or whatever. I have my Playdate, and my little Playdate console, and there's a game on there called Root Bear. And it's that's it. You can guess what it is. You serve root beer to bears.
Dude.
And you use the little crank to like turn the spigot on the root beer dispenser on the soda machine, and you fill the glass up to like a certain line on the glass. If you go over, you lose points. If you go under, you get less points.
Man,
you gotta aim for the perfect pour every time. It's so fun, dude. The round is only like a minute, but it's I don't know what it is about it. It's addicting,
dude. And you know what? I love both those things. I love bears and root beer. Root beer's so good.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I wonder, are those play dates like just available? Like, could I go just buy one now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the initial pre-orders have shipped out. So if you buy one now, it'll be to you within, I think, a week or two.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. They're so cute. Do you throw it in your pocket and just head out the door?
Yeah, it's small enough. I put it in my pocket, or I just keep it in my backpack.
Oh,
battery lasts 2 weeks, so I don't have to charge it very often. So that's a plus.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's great. Yeah, I've been playing a couple things. Let's talk about Persona 3 Reload.
Yes, please.
Reloaded.
I played original Persona 3. I have not gotten to Reload. I've heard great things, but I would love to hear from somebody I know's actual opinion.
Okay, so I haven't to preface this, I have played the opening 4 hours of original Persona 3.
Mm-hmm.
So like I got to where I was dungeon crawling and with my friends and shooting myself in the dang head and running around. And I don't know what it is about Persona 3, but I really like it. I really like being in the world of Persona 3. There's something about it I like. It's weird because like the Persona 3 and 4 to me aren't like so dissimilar in their design,
right?
Necessarily, and top to bottom, like the dungeon design, the character design, they're similar games, and they're not, and they're kind of even in some ways telling similar stories. Some of those, your friends that you meet along the way are going through similar problems as the as they are in Persona 4, but I've always just kind of preferred like the main character of Persona 3 a little bit, like and again, like I know it's such a weird, kind of creepy and like very subversive detail, but like the whole idea that they pull out guns and shoot themselves in the head is just so nuts to see that image. It's such a striking, bold image. It's very heavy. It might even be a little insensitive. I don't know, but to me, it's so bold that I really respond to it emotionally. I really like this.
I don't know if I would go with insensitive. I think they're trying to make a play on, the theme of the game, which is like dealing with the just task, I would say, of being alive. What is living, what is dealing with the fact that you're gonna die, things like that. So
Persona is also like I think in some cases is about ego death. It's about like you're the person that you are performing as versus the person you really are. So that symbolism really is like it's a clean metaphor,
Yep.
for that.
I think
Anyways,
it's the most blatant in 5 too, because
totally.
we're literally taking off a mask. So.
Yes, and I haven't played 5 to be fair, so I don't know how much 5, upgrades from the systems and like how 3 and 4 play, but yeah. So, anyways, I played the original 3. Always really loved it. You remember graphically what that kind of looked like, right? It was on the PS2.
It was a PS2 game. Mm-hmm.
The characters, you might say they're like chibi, like they're like squat. They're not like to scale, I don't think. Or maybe they are.
They are. They're just not really well detailed. Also, because it is a PS2 game.
Yeah.
I think they kind of shrink them down when they go into Tartarus a little bit, just so you can kind of feel the scale of how big Tartarus is. But I don't think they're necessarily chibi. It might be somewhere in the middle, if memory serves.
I think their scaling, their like character model scaling is just different than this game. Is what I would. This game to me feels like full scale models, like full scale, like tall, like your character's like really tall in this, and like the world of it is much more like a Shin Megami Tensei 5 or like a Persona 5. Yeah, even Persona 4, I think they're like a little more. Everything is just like kind of like squeezed in. This is like blown out. It's gorgeous. This Persona 3 Reload. It plays great. I mean, it does right so far. Now I'm about 6 hours in.
Okay.
To this. It plays great. I can't tell you what's other than graphically what's different about it. Oh, and it's voice acted. I don't remember if the original is voice acted.
It is.
It is. Okay, great. Yeah, I can't.
Is it fully?
Well, the main cutscenes are voice acted.
Okay. Yeah, they were in the second one.
Yeah.
Or in PS2.
And they do that thing where when you approach a character, they'll have a little like, "Hello."
How's it going?
Yeah, and then it's like not what they're really saying. I can't tell you what else is different. I'm sure they've cleaned up the systems and like rebalanced a lot of the combat and stuff, but it's great. It is a Persona game. It isn't like subverting anything you might expect there. It is just, but that's a good thing. Like Persona games are fun games, so I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and I am so pleased that this was a day one Game Pass game.
Yes, that's what I've been hearing.
That was shocking to me. I was like, this is a game that I really want to play, but I was like dreading, spending the money on it. And like, it's great that I didn't have to do that. I mean, I did through my subscription, but
right. No, that's fair. I'm such a big Persona fan. It doesn't matter to me. I was gonna get it regardless. I just haven't had the time to sit around. Also, weird that it didn't come to Switch.
Yeah, I wonder if it's I wonder if it.
I wouldn't say so because we have 5 on there.
5 on Switch. Yeah, you're right.
Right. So that was a weird oversight there.
I would
love to be able to pick it up and take it with me. So.
Did you pick up those Persona 3 and 4 on Switch?
Absolutely. 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really want a physical of 3 and 4 on my Switch.
I think they sell the card if I'm not mistaken.
Limited Run did, I think, some cards, but you know how those are always like they sell out in a second,
and they take 2 years to get to you.
Yeah. I just would really like those 3, like the big 3 Personas
I get
on
you.
Switch. That would be a physical would be great. But yeah, it is just. I feel like I'm gonna play 5 at some point this year. Like it's just been like it's been out for so long, and I've been waiting on it. Like with big JRPGs, I know I'm gonna love. I have to like the moon has to be in like aligned with the planets. Like I have to like the conditions have to be just right for me to start it. Because I'll get nuts with it. I'll get really.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Where it's like I do not want to play anything else.
Yes.
When I get home, I want to turn whatever is going on, movie wise, TV wise. I don't care. I need to see what is going to happen in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I recommend it, especially if you have Game Pass. It really takes nothing to just throw that thing on and check it out if you're not a Persona fan. I would also say this is a fun one to start with because it's sort of this is when the series got started to create a lot more of its staples. I think that it would do forever. Like, I didn't play much of Persona 2 or 1, but those games they do have obviously connections to the other games, but Persona 3 is when it's like the style got involved, and
that's what people know Persona as. Yeah, started with 3.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say yeah. No, so that sounds like a definite. I was already gonna buy it, but now you've just reinforced it tenfold. So
just great. Yeah, I mean, a real slam dunk. Like, especially if you're a fan of Persona, like just a real slam dunk. Like, looks awesome too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, those games are fun.
Gorgeous.
Okay, let's talk a little Crisis Core. So yeah. So homeboy, Adrian Holmes. I'm sure you've talked about it to death on your show and on other podcasts, but tell me a little bit about your history with Final Fantasy VII in general.
Ooh. Oh man, where do we start?
Yeah, right. The 90s.
Right, of course. You see the initial trailers for it. Remember, I don't know if you were, taking a look or at that time, but they had the trailers where they were like Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
It's the cinematic gaming event of the century or something like that. And they would show clips from the cutscenes.
It looked like a movie trailer.
Yes, dude. Yeah. So, of course, that marketing worked on everybody my age. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting it late. And I don't recall why. I don't know if there was something else. I know I had, because we got a PlayStation 1 late. We had it. We bet it on N64. Like, I think it came out in 97 here, didn't it? 96?
PlayStation 1?
Mm-hmm.
I know it came out in 94, I think, in Japan, and 95 out here.
95?
I think we got ours. It was pre-64.
Right. I think we got ours in 98.
Okay.
So
that's when I got mine too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got that in 98, and then I actually got Final Fantasy VII as a hand-me-down in 99. So I was already late to the game, but I remember those commercials. And then I remember being 7 and trying to play an RPG for the first time and trying to, how they attack me and then I attack them and then it goes back and forth again. And I was familiar with how that worked because my old man was a RPG fan. He was playing Dragon Quest, when I was a young man. Your
dad played Dragon Quest?
Yeah.
You're the coolest dad in the world. What are you talking? What? That's such a cultured game to start sinking your teeth in.
So I remember that. I remember him going through those kinds of battles where he would take his turn and the other person would take their turn. Of course, I'm a young kid, so it doesn't really lock in.
Right.
So I try my best to go through, not really know what I'm doing. And I put it down for a little while. And I remember Kingdom Hearts came out. And it was 02. And Cloud shows up. Mm-hmm. And I said, I remember him from Final Fantasy. So now, it's a few years later. I have a good kind of better understanding for video games. Kingdom Hearts, my love. I love her dearly. I beat Kingdom Hearts and I go back and I say, let me go ahead and try Final Fantasy VII again. Try it again, clicks, go all the way through. All the way to the end.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. And so that was 02. And then I got my PSP in 05. And lo and behold, I hear there's something about a game about Zack. From Final Fantasy VII. And I said, what? A game about Zack? And then they show the cutscenes for it. And I said, this is coming out on PSP? Because, look, for everybody who's listening right now, okay? If you go and you watch Final Fantasy Crisis Core cutscenes on YouTube, they ain't going to look that great compared to what we have today, all right? But I want you to think about the fact that it was the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and this was on a small handheld console that was pumping these graphics out. That was insane to see that at that time. Square was going off in their bag. So picked up Crisis Core, same deal. Played all the way through that. Still have the same UMD to this day.
Ooh.
Special near and dear to my heart.
That UMD is very special too, I think, because like I know that they never ended up selling Crisis Core online. Like they never sold it on their online store. So like for people who got the PSP Go, that was a huge problem. Yeah, because you couldn't play one of the best games on the console.
I mean, you could.
Well, yeah,
but you couldn't actually play it.
And what am I thinking? Like the PSP was like day one to do whatever you wanted it to do. So yeah, wow.
So yeah, was late to the initial Final Fantasy VII train. Jumped on, like I said, about 12, 13, and been on it ever since. Played Crisis Core. Suffered through Dirge of Cerberus.
Oh man, what do you mean suffered through? You mean had a great time the whole way?
The story is great. Everything else about the game is great except for the gameplay. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's so bad. I that's what I'm waiting for a remake for, so they can fix that. I can't wait to play that with competent controls.
That we'll get into
it. Are you doing that in your lead up?
Well, no, I can't do that. I did it once. I played through the whole game, like not even that long ago, like in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a my neighbor was like having like a garage sale, and they had literally a PS2 sitting on the concrete, like on the sidewalk.
Just take it.
And they were like, I was like, how much do you want for this? They said $1, and so I said, I'll give you $5. And I grabbed it, and I got it all working. You know, I got all the cables, and I had always, for some stupid reason, I don't know why, I had 2 PS2 games that I had been taking with me everywhere I moved for over a decade without even having a PS2.
One day I'm gonna play these,
and they had my memory cards in them. You know how like the PS2,
the slot on the top,
yeah, the slot, and the 2 games were Shadow of the Colossus and
Banger.
Dirge of Cerberus. And I was like, but as a kid I had never played it. I bought Dirge of Cerberus and never finished it. So I finally hooked up the PS2 and finished it. And yeah, that game, look, it is like as generic of a third person shooter as you could possibly get. To me, I did play through it and beat it, and it wasn't like that frustrating or anything. It's just more like boring. Like the gameplay is really repetitive and boring, but the story is really fun if you like Final Fantasy.
Right. If you do not pick up that game, if you have no knowledge about, you will be lost.
It's like the worst Devil May Cry game you've ever played if you don't have the context for it. But that's so awesome. Yeah, there's back to your story though. When they released that game on PSP, they had the 10th anniversary like Final Fantasy VII PSP edition that had like the 10th anniversary if that's one of my biggest gaming console regrets is not buying that.
I couldn't justify it. I already had my regular one. So
I know. I never
my folks weren't going for it.
I still to this day have never owned a PSP. Like everything I've played on,
brother.
I own a Vita. Everything I played on PSP, I've played on Vita. But the actual PSP, I never owned. And man, I really want that because it came in the beautiful box with Crisis Core and everything. Oh, like
yep. I know the exact model you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. My history with Final Fantasy VII is I always tell this story, this little anecdote, because I think it's. As a kid, I just like, I don't know. I think this is really cute, but like I did get a PlayStation around 98. My parents bought it as like a please forgive us for moving you across the country gift.
Uh-huh.
Like we moved from California to Texas when I was 11 in
Ooh.
'98, and I was like, I was really struggling. So they bought me a PlayStation, and I'd wanted Final Fantasy VII like for at that point a whole year. You know, I just wanted it so bad,
Mm-hmm.
and they got it for me, but they never got me they didn't give me a memory card right away.
Oh
So
no.
I would play the first disc in one sitting to the end. Oh, like multiple
And then just
times,
have to do it
and then have
over
to
and
just do it over again. That's how much I like the game, though. I would like
right.
kind of play through it. So I'd play all of Midgar, like just over, or no, all of Midgar through Sid, through all of that stuff, through Temple of the Ancients,
In one
everything.
go.
I mean, I would do that thing that I think we did a lot as kids, where we
just leave it on
and then turn the TV off.
Yeah.
But yeah, huge fan of Final Fantasy VII. I would say it's like my favorite. You know, I think Mario 64 is my favorite game now as an adult, but as a kid growing up, it was this game for years. I mean,
I couldn't fault you for that.
Yeah.
It was the JRPG awakening for a lot of people.
Truly, and you know, I think we talked about the marketing of Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people, I think, expected it to be an action game based on all of those cutscenes, and then when they got it, it was like this kind of slow, plodding chess-like system, and that really, I think you're right. That really did start the JRPG like revolution in the West, where it was like the PS1 became a JRPG machine, where it was like, I mean, that the Final Fantasy VII alone got me to play games like Saga Frontier, Legends of Dragoon, Xenogears, Parasite Eve. Like it was, and that Square logo. I would play anything.
If you ever see Squaresoft on a game, even to this day, not Square Enix, if you see Squaresoft, you're having a good time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're in for a good time.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo was a pretty decent JRPG machine too.
Oh,
but
it was a beast too.
Yeah, but like I definitely I caught on during the PS1 era, and it was what it had over the N64. The N64 just didn't have anything like that, unless you count Quest 64.
I knew you were gonna say Quest. That was Nintendo's own fault, man. That's what they get for going with cartridges. You know?
For sure. And don't get me wrong. I mean, like Ocarina of Time, give me a break. But like these were really special games. It was a very special time. Crisis Core. So a little table setting here. We know that Crisis Core was a part of something they called the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, which was around the 10-year anniversary of the game coming out in 07. They started to reinvest in Final Fantasy VII specifically. This is the first time I think Square had done that with the Final Fantasy
big anniversary, yeah.
Well, or just like start to do. I don't know if Final Fantasy IV: The After Years came out before this. It might have, but I'm just trying to think of like when the bonus content from these older games, like that feels like it kind of started here with this. Like, and to me, Final Fantasy VII and Star Wars have always shared a lot of similarities. And I guess the only reason I think that is because like. Well, the stories aren't too dissimilar, I guess, like at least in how they're structured. Like you have like clouds like Luke, and you could argue
Shinra's the Empire.
Sephiroth is like Darth Vader doing, because that's like its own separate thing. Like Darth and Luke have their own separate squabble that's not to do with the Empire. Cloud even having a sword is sort of like Luke's lightsaber versus Barrett's gun arm is more like Han Solo or something in there.
You know, I've never put this together until you started talking like this.
It's similar. I mean, it's not. The stories aren't exactly that similar, but you know, you could extrapolate that there's like DNA of Star Wars in there. And I always thought this compilation of Final Fantasy VII felt like when Lucas made the prequels, like where it was, we had this original thing that was Star Wars, the original trilogy, and now we're expounding on it. And having that feeling a little bit of like, oh, whatever you thought was special about the original games, that's here, but it's a little different and a little bit more diluted, and it's not capturing me the same way that original game did.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand that.
Is that was always my feeling with specifically Crisis Core. Now, because I didn't play the other compilation games. I know there was like a mobile game, I think.
Yeah, I've only ever played the 3. I've played Final Fantasy VII Prime, I've played Crisis Core, and I played Dirge of Cerberus. Anything else? I think the mobile game was about the Turks, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was like this whole backstory where, like, I think maybe it's like how they met Elena and stuff, and how she got into the crew. Anyways, yeah.
Side note, Cisna coming back in Rebirth.
Yes.
Wild. Did not expect that.
Dude, they're doing. I mean, Rebirth.
They are mashing all of it together,
and that's why. Okay, so when you brought up Dirge of Cerberus earlier, I was like, they've already, like, they've already had a huge nod to Dirge of Cerberus in intermission with Yuffie and that story where she basically fights the final boss of Dirge of Cerberus in that DLC. I wonder if they're gonna do more Dirge of Cerberus stuff in Rebirth with Vincent.
I was gonna say, I mean, Vincent's already there, so they can set it up if they like, but it's tough.
Or even Advent Children, because I always felt like Advent Children and Dirge of Cerberus were very connected. You know,
that's fair. The only problem with that though is Advent Children takes place after the entirety of 7, though, right?
Yeah.
So you'd be pulling from the future, which they could do.
They kind of are doing with pulling from the past, anyways, because we already know Zach is probably going to be in this game.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I mean, it's exciting to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess they could if they wanted to. Huh.
They're really flipping the rules around. And it seems like they really want to wedge, no pun intended, in a bunch of different, like, stuff that they've created throughout the years for the game. Like,
it's a super game.
Yeah.
It's like, all of them in one.
Nods to all these other extra curriculars, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess Crisis Core stood out to me though as the best of the compilation. So it's definitely it's way better than a game like Dirge of Cerberus. Mm-hmm. And I think the story is great on its own. It's its own like little story. Oh, it also kind of reminds me of the prequels of Star Wars because it focuses on what the prequels focus on, the Jedi, like this idea that we're with the soldier, which to me are kind of like the Jedi. And it's like showing you when they were in their prime, when that whole, you know, whatever you call it, like division of Shinra was in its like prime, and they kind of ruled the roost, so to speak.
Before the breakaway, before they started going rogue, and
did you end up checking out the remake of Crisis Core?
So surprisingly, I have not. So I'll be going into Rebirth with just knowledge of the original Crisis Core. I don't know. Did you play the remake? Is there any additional story things in there, or is it just A to Z?
I'm halfway through Crisis Core right now. So I'm doing a thing where I'm playing through the remake, intermission, and Crisis Core before Rebirth.
Got it.
This whole month I'm blowing through all that stuff. I'm almost done with the remake right now, and I'm halfway. And like last year, I was playing Crisis Core, and I got about halfway through it. So I'm very excited to finish that game. I don't know if there's any story changes at all yet. So far, there hasn't been any, but there has been like. They've cleaned up so much of the graphics and the gameplay and stuff. They've made it really
right.
They made it really like a modern game. Feel like a more of a modern game. But I wonder if there is stuff in there. Like cuz there's definitely more details to the world. So you've already seen stuff where you've gone to an environment and been like, "Oh, I didn't notice that poster was here before." Oh, I didn't notice that. So
I mean, it was probably there. It was just illegible.
Yeah.
It was in like 144p.
Yeah.
But I would say if there was significant story additions, I can see me going back to doing it. But if it's honestly a shot for shot, I feel like I'm good with having played the original.
Yeah,
moving into Rebirth.
And I guess, I haven't even really asked you, but how do you feel about Crisis Core? How do you feel about the original?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal game in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's a good middle ground between the people who are, I don't like turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
But it still gives you autonomy over Zach a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You can move around the battlefield. You can attack if you like at your speed. There's still ATB and whatnot, but it's a nice marriage between the two for people who are like, I don't want to take my turn and then wait and then them take their turn.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So and I already, gushed about the graphics. They will always be good to me. I don't care. We can go into 8K.
I love them.
200 frames a second games with Unreal Engine, whatever. But no, those are like special just because of what they were able to do on that hardware.
And it made me just that much more, I think, bummed that we didn't get a remake back then on the PS2. Because there was rumors of a remake coming even as far back as the PS2. But I was like, see, you can do it. Look, it's you could.
It's possible.
It's possible. Yeah. I'm a pretty big fan of Crisis Core myself. I mean, for me, that first game will always be super special, and I think it's telling a very specific story that Crisis Core expounds upon, which it does so in a cool way that I really appreciate. And I do love being in that world. So yeah, I'm excited to finish the remake before Rebirth and be really caught up and like really live in this world for a while. Are you going to be a day one Rebirth person?
I'm still trying to figure that part out. I am without a PS5 at the moment, but I will figure. I will figure some things out.
Yeah, what
happened?
happened?
Some things around. Bills needed to be paid.
Sold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens,
dude. I hear you. I was starting to sell some stuff too.
Yeah,
pretty recently, but
but I mean, it's a for sure purchase. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So the moment I'm able to access it, it's go time.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I need to figure out because I'm chomping at the bit to play it, right? So. I want to mute stuff online, but I don't want to mute stuff online because I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
I feel like I can take a few spoilers because I know the overarching story and I know where it's going. But at the same time, do we?
I don't think we do ultimately. No. I think we're gonna know. I think the beats of that first disc seem like they're all gonna, like from the trailer anyway, seem like they're all gonna be there. Like it seems like we're gonna close out that first disc. I mean, there's the Temple of the Ancients is in that game. Like we see it in
which
the trailer.
Is kind of wild.
Yeah. So that's at the very end of the disc one. So yeah, I think we're definitely in for that much of it anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Like, there's also characters in that trailer that I've just never even seen before or heard of before. So probably it's gonna be like
have to.
So I don't know. It depends. Do you think that spoiling that game will even matter? Because if I like a thing enough, spoilers don't really matter. I'll like, you know what I mean? Like I'll have it spoiled and then I'll go in and just enjoy it as if I'm playing it for the first time.
I can still enjoy the thing. I think when you can tell it was intended for you to not know whatever that was. Like, we were never supposed to know that Zach is alive at the end of Remake.
Yeah.
So I think for me that hit a lot harder when it came up beating Remake.
Yeah.
But had I known Zach was be alive, I feel like I don't know if I'd be more excited or more curious to find out how it happened.
Totally.
But
Absolutely.
If I don't know, then I get both. I get to be excited and curious. So
Adrian Holmes, thank you so much for joining us today. on video
Thank
games
you
and
for having
comedy
me,
shows. One-Winged Memories. Go ahead and plug before we head out. Where can people find you, and what do you want people to know?
You can find me. I am one half of the Super Gamer Boys podcast. We are on twitch.tv/the Super Gamer Boys every Monday night at 7, going over the news of the week in the gaming sphere. Recently, we've been talking about Xbox because everybody has been talking about Xbox lately. Other than that, you can find me on all the socials at Homeboy. I'm always down to talk gaming or whatever. And you can find me also in the Shinra lab, trying to make sure that Garrett has recovered from his Mako poisoning.
Absolutely. We got to get our boy back on his feet after that Mako poisoning. Adrian Holmes, thank you. We'll have you back soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Now, welcome to the program, Patrick Ehlers.
Thank you.
It's Aaron.
Oh.
And you are?
Patrick!
Great. I had thought about coming into 2024. I had thought about and I was like, this is a petty thing. Don't do this. Don't text Jeremy about this. But I was going to ask you if I could have a drop that didn't include a SpongeBob drop.
I'm so glad you didn't, because now the curse continues.
The curse continues.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was just like a little too old or what, but like the
You don't know
SpongeBob,
SpongeBob, right?
I don't know it. I don't know it.
Can I be honest with you? I don't either.
Yeah. Okay, great. I don't know it. I don't get it. I don't know what that starfish's deal is. I think
Never
he's dumb.
watched a full episode in my life.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I know it as a series of memes.
Yeah, I know it as my baby sister would watch it. I know it as that. But
Yeah.
But he does say Patrick at the top of his lungs.
He does.
Shouts it, and your name happens to be Patrick.
I know. Like, what are you supposed to do?
I know.
The only other and I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. I'm not going to tell you how to make drops.
Of course.
But there is
You could.
I'm not
I wouldn't
going to.
hate it.
But here it comes.
I don't no, I didn't go to school for it.
Elijah Wood's character in Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind.
Baby boy.
That's Patrick, baby boy.
Just popped on the Criterion channel as of February. Eternal Sunshine did, and did a rewatch on Friday. You know, that's one of my all-time favorites. Of course.
Mine too. Yes.
Of course.
Of course.
It is.
We both have this facial hair.
We both have this
course.
facial hair. We both are of a certain generation.
Mhm.
Movie holds up fantastically. I watched it with my wife once a few years ago during COVID. She hated it. She really hated Kate Winslet. She really hated the Manic Pixie Dream girl character. I watched it with her again. I made her rewatch it with me.
Yes.
I got her this time. She liked
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's in. Yeah, she's in.
I haven't seen that movie probably in 15 years. I loved it. I watched it a bunch of times, including once with my parents. And afterwards, my mom turned to me and said, "Pretty weird, Pa."
Pat. That's
Pretty
so
weird,
funny.
Pa.
Aw. That is, it is pretty weird. I was actually,
I agree.
Because I was stoned watching it this time, and
Yes.
I was making all these comments like, boy, these images sure are striking.
You're not wrong. You're so right.
like the image of them dancing on the bed while he's comatose with the big helmet on.
Yes.
It's just like an image you won't see in another movie,
Yeah, absolutely. And a fully grown Jim Carrey hiding under a table.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's an image that won't leave my mind when they're making fun of each other and they're under the blankets.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are just so many moments in that movie where they'll never leave my mind.
Yeah, it has a really and of course everyone is shouting at the top of their lungs stop talking about this on
no, and I say no.
But
yes.
They do the best these two characters are in love with each other cutaways. like
Yes.
like to communicate to you like that they're having fun. These scenes are really believable. They're like they do a really good job of like getting you into their relationship in a way that feels authentic to them, but universal to everybody, like broadly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and the flip side of it is true too, that like the parts of it where it's showing how the relationship like deteriorates or how they grind against each other, those moments also feel real and not and like grounded and not exaggerated. Are you watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Not yet, no, but is it good?
It rules.
Oh,
it's like I can't believe how much I'm enjoying it. It is not a show about like spies doing spy stuff. It's a show about a marriage.
cool.
And all of the marriage specifics are spy things. So like there's an episode called First Vacation, and you know it's like what a couple going on vacation goes through. Yeah, they're there to like hack some cell phones and like you know on like and like shoot guns and ski at the same time, but like it's fucking awesome. And Maya Erskine and Donald Glover are just incredible on it.
I can't wait to see this. Is it and I didn't see this show. Is that similar to what The Americans is?
Sort of. Like the Americans I think does more to like play the two things against each other, like how the like spy stuff gets in the way of a relationship, or how a relationship gets in the way of spy stuff. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith is more like they're together, the marriage is the spy stuff. Does that make sense?
I love it. Yeah. I mean, what a palpable metaphor.
I agree.
Okay, and that's been TV Film Corner with Patrick and Jeremy. We should just do our own show that's more this kind of
That
stuff.
was more fun than whatever we're about to do.
Oh, it's definitely more fun than whatever we're about to do. Patrick Ehlers, you are the co-host of the Nintendo Cartridge Society.
That's true.
You know, I want to give you an opportunity up top to explain a little bit about what that show is and what you do there and who you are and video games.
Yeah, and video games. I have to explain video games?
Yeah, the whole history and
all right, okay. So I guess we got to go back to Pong.
Maybe earlier.
Oh shit. The Nintendo Cartridge Society is a podcast that I host with Mark Mitchell. We do twice a week episodes
at the Cat Ranch.
Yeah, we what?
Pow! Mark Mitchell. Pow! That's me pretending like I don't know that Mark Maron's name is different than Mark Mitchell.
I see. Okay. All right.
It's a weird bit.
It's a good bit. Lock the gate, etc., etc.
Lock the gate. That would have been better.
That's because I've listened to maybe like 3 or 4 episodes of WTF.
Ever?
Yeah.
You didn't go through a phase?
No. Well, my phase was the You Made It Weird phase. Like I listened to the Ripoff podcast.
I did both. My phase was
all right.
I was insatiable.
I need more comedians talking to comedians.
Yes.
What was? Oh yes. So Mark Mitchell, not Mark Maron, hosts a podcast with me. We'll do a Tuesday episode where we're like going through the news and what we've been playing, and then a Thursday episode, which is all digging into a deep dive into a specific topic. Sometimes it's a goof around time, and sometimes it's a little bit more serious. Right now, we're like kind of talking through the Mario versus Donkey Kong series and all of the sort of like ephemera around it. So yeah, we just did an episode comparing like 3 sort of like pillars of each of those series. So it was like world versus country, 64 versus 64, and Wonder versus Tropical Freeze.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dang. I love that. That's a clever way to, you know, continue the conversation of these 2 titans. Mario and Donkey Kong.
One is more of a titan than the other. Like there are ultimately far fewer Donkey Kong games than there are Mario games. Yeah. But you know, they're married like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They will never escape each other.
I find that it's hard to think of a better game than Donkey Kong 94 sometimes. Sometimes I just sit down and think about how
it's
that's
a damn
the best
good one.
Game.
It's, I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think it would be a little bit better if like Sonic the Hedgehog were in there and they had to do like hurdles against each other. And they were like at Sochi but yeah, I think maybe that would be a little bit better.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. If you could just wedge in a whole Olympic Games.
Happening. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah. Patrick, I brought you on here because I actually didn't know this, and we've been friends for a long time, but I didn't know that you were a big Final Fantasy VII fan. I could have guessed that, actually, but I'm so used to me being disappointed, like people aren't as big of a fan as I was, or whatever. But you were like, no, I've actually played all this. I played through some of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. You played the original game. It sounds like, and
So I mean, just to like set that up, I was a huge fan of Final Fantasies 1, 4, and 6, as those were the ones that were available in the States. And there was an issue of Nintendo Power that was like, Final Fantasy VII is currently in development for the Nintendo 64, or probably then the Nintendo Ultra 64. And I was like, that's it. That for me, that was the thing that I was like, okay, great, I'm gonna get the Nintendo 64 on day one.
Yep.
And then when it didn't happen, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy my first ever non-Nintendo console so I can play Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation. And got it the year it came out. And like in kind of rapid succession, I did like a natural playthrough where I just like played the way I was going to play. And then I went back and did a playthrough where I did literally every fucking thing you can do in the game. And then when I was done with that, I went back and played it as fast as I could.
That's cool.
So like in the course of a year, I played the game 3 times. And
that you got me beat. I mean, I've played the game, I think, through more than I've played definitely any other RPG. But I have never played it 3 times in 1 year. That's pretty good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was obsessive and like in middle school when this was happening. So like, yeah.
Did you have a guide?
I did.
Yeah. That was crucial because, I mean, how would you know how a lot of those systems worked and stuff, like?
Yeah, a lot of the systems are pretty obtuse. The guide I had was like, it wasn't the Prima guide. It was one of these like unofficial, unauthorized guides. And I remember like being so excited about the way it talked about like linking materia together and like just the various strategies for like getting to a point where you can do like a quadramagic Knights of the Round and have it linked to like MP absorb so you can actually do that. Because like I was like, I'm gonna battle these weapons, the ruby and emerald weapons that are sort of like the hidden mega bosses of the game.
Did you beat those?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Patrick.
Yeah, everything that you can do, I did.
I mean, I didn't even consider that because I've never beat those through regular means. I've only seen them. I've only seen what happens after those defeats through the re-release of the game where you can like never die and full limit breaks all the time.
Right. No, I mean, what you need to do is you need to have, everyone needs to have final attack Phoenix, so that when like Emerald Weapon does that party wipe, which I forget what the move is called, but it just literally does 10,000 damage to everyone.
Yeah.
No, it's like a different way that you have to think about the game when you're fighting those things.
Wow. That's impressive. I'm impressed. I mean, seriously, as a longtime fan of this game, and really it is the first game. I mean, like that's the thing that got me, like really. I mean, probably a lot of people, but like, as much as I love the remake and love the other stuff, nothing really quite hit like that first game for me. But
yeah, I mean, that is true, but I do find the original game hard to go back to.
That's interesting. I aesthetically really love it.
Okay.
Maybe it's just because I'm poisoned. I'm like nostalgia poisoned or whatever.
I yes, and as am I. But I
when Cloud has to do those like sit-ups and his blocky arms are like going like up and down like a Lego guy. I'm like, this rocks.
That rules. Yeah. No, and the first like 5 hours of the game, I'm like, hell yeah, this is the best. And I've replayed that like section like probably up until Cloud telling the story of the destruction of Nibelheim. That I've played probably like 30 times in the intervening years.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'll never get to the point, I don't think, again, where I want to like do the thing where I'm like breeding chokobos and like racing them at the gold sauce. Like I'm never gonna do that again.
Yeah. Heavens no. Well, thank you for that. That's a good amount of table setting. I really wanted to also mention, like Nintendo Cartridge Society, like the podcast that you do, as you've noticed, so many Final Fantasy games are now on the Switch and are available on a Nintendo console again. As a Final Fantasy fan and a Nintendo fan, that's got to be so exciting. I mean, I know for me, I love seeing those icons all on my Switch library. Like, I've got them all. Like, they're all here. Like, all my friends. Squall.
Tidus. Zidane,
for God's sakes. Yeah.
No, it's I've not yet purchased Final Fantasy VIII or the 10-10-2 collection, or 12. I think I've never played 12, so I don't even actually know if I like that game.
Yeah, I started it on the Switch.
We should. But have you ever played it before?
No, I didn't play it when it came out.
We should make it a thing so that we can hold each other accountable. And
I think so, and it does have all of those great inclusions for if you want to more mainline the story and are frustrated with like maybe how the because that game has kind of an MMO combat.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're not into early aughts MMO style,
and I'm not.
Yeah. You can just kind of grind through those and then just do the bosses. It is great too. I will say this, like the opening 5 hours of it is like, oh fuck, it's Star Wars. It's awesome.
That's awesome. There should be just a compilation of the first 5 hours of every Final Fantasy game.
They're always awesome. They're always so awesome, and they're cutscene heavy and like yeah.
And you're fighting like a snail.
Yeah. Oh, give me all that world building.
Give me that
stuff.
big snail who, like, if you attack its shell, it shoots you with lightning.
Yes. Oh, that snail's so good. Oh God, that snail. We're gonna get that snail soon, I think.
The snail that I'm thinking of is in Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, the one I'm thinking of is in 7. Do you have
Which
the
snail?
Is that it is a snail, right? It's like the thing that Sephiroth has to kill, and its big shell is like you like go into its shell or you see its shell.
Oh
carcass.
Yes, yeah. It's kind of more crabby, right?
Might be a crab.
I know it's been so long.
Might be a crab.
It might be a crab.
I've actually never finished Final Fantasy VI. That's a game that I would really like to finish this year, I think.
That game fucking rules.
Yeah.
I was just on Call Me by Your Game, which I guess is this coming out
yesterday.
this week?
It's coming out tomorrow as of this recording.
And so then 2 days from now on Wednesday, me and Mark Mitchell and Drew Mackey are doing our top 10 games of all time.
Yes.
And spoiler, but Final Fantasy VI appears on my list.
Yeah. Does 7?
It doesn't. It gets on honorable mention.
Honestly, some of this is just which one you got to first and which one made the biggest impression first. And 6 wasn't a game that was even on my freaking radar when I was a kid.
Do you know my like origin story with 6? So I had played 4 at a friend's house and like rented it, and it was like, this game is awesome. I gotta like.
It's awesome. Star Wars.
It's totally Star Wars. Yeah. You go to the moon.
Literally. Yeah.
And I asked for it for Christmas, and my grandmother got me a Final Fantasy game, and I was like, yeah, ripping it open. You know what a Super Nintendo game looks like when it's wrapped up.
Hell yeah.
But it was Final Fantasy 3, and I was like, what the fuck is like? I didn't say anything. I was gracious, but
good,
like
good.
inside,
You were a good boy. You were
a good boy.
Yeah.
I was too old to be a bad boy about it.
Yeah.
But like inside, I was crying and knew nothing about the game. And then like put it in, and it starts off with that. You're marching through the snowy field to a village to fucking burn it to the ground.
Yeah. And as someone who hasn't finished 6,
I
can tell you, with no authority, it's like 300% better than 4. Like it's like so much better of a game.
I love 4. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, it's
4 is like. Have you gone back to 4 in a while?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played it last year on the Pixel remaster.
Yeah, it's like. Oh, did you get all those Pixel remasters?
Of course.
Where did
the
you
same
get
disease you do.
On Switch? Did you get them on Switch?
Yeah, on Switch.
Yeah. I have them on because they first came to PC. And
yeah.
I got them there like an idiot. Like, when am I going to play games on
fucking
PC?
Dumbass.
That's
Why
so
would you
stupid.
do that?
But I did, and now I have them there. And I feel like, should I get them on Switch too? I should.
Yes.
But 4's writing is like, I was playing it because I played it for the first time all the way through like last year, the year before, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm now 36.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think I can. I don't know.
It's tough. It's
for babies.
It's for babies. It's very like the characters are very like streamlined and simplified, right? In a way that like is not true of 6 and definitely of 7.
Right.
You and I were texting about how awesome it is that the main character of Final Fantasy VII is like a loser and a liar.
Yes. Yeah. He's a snake. He's like he's a weirdo. He's like a weird incel guy.
Yes.
But
he comes off. They present him at like for the first, I don't even know how long, half of the game.
Yeah, as
like
Goku. He's the best.
Yeah. And it's slowly revealed like, no, he's stolen his identity and doesn't know how to talk to girls. And sucks.
Yeah.
But you love him anyway.
Yeah. That we're just getting into it now. This game came out in 1997, the original, and 2 years later, there in cinema too, there was like this big twists were all the rage, right? Like 2 years later, The Sixth Sense and Fight Club come out.
Right. And arguably The Matrix, right? Which like it's not a twist, it's the premise of the movie, but like it initially presents itself as like the world of The Matrix is just like the real world.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I as a kid, I wasn't watching those films as they came out, and I wasn't like reading like elevated fiction or anything that would have done similar things in the past. So I always look at Final Fantasy VII as like this thing that opened the door to a lot of like narrative tropes that now I know are tropes and I know are like conventions and stuff. But at the time, to me, it blew my mind to see Cloud in a wheelchair for all of disc 2. Like, it blew my mind to see him like coming to terms with the fact that he is an
imposter.
Imposter. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is like I feel like those sort of like big twists that you're talking about, and I think like Usual Suspects is like a perfect example of that kind of twist. The twist is almost always that the reality is more interesting than the story you've been presented.
Yeah.
But like in Final Fantasy VII, it's almost the opposite, that like Cloud isn't cooler or more dangerous than we thought him to be. He's sucks so much more. Like it's this deflating thing, which like dovetails so nicely with like the themes of the game, where like your ragtag group of eco-terrorists is fighting against a like force from the heavens that's trying to destroy Earth, and in the end they fail.
Yeah,
like
they totally blow it.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, it was almost like not a quest they could have ever succeeded at. Like it just wasn't ever going to happen. Up to and including like a post-credit scene where you just see the world is just destroyed.
Yeah.
Like it's just done. And like the creatures have reclaimed it and everything. It's like, it's sort of it's a very beautiful tale of like futility in a lot of ways. Like it's sort of like teaching you, and again, I'm processing this as an 11-year-old, like spiraling out of control. Like what?
Yeah.
To the point where I don't even think I clocked it until much later that's even what happened. Like I think I just finished it, was like, cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's, and you know, that post-credit sequence that you're referring to is like Midgar is all like overgrown, but like it's green, right? Like there's plant life. There's plant life everywhere, and then like a Red 13 like creature appears with like little Red 13 pups.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh yeah, like the world ended, but B, life goes on.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know. There's, like you say, there's something about like the futility of all of that that's so compelling.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I there's something really special about that original. That's it's a. It also again like I brought this up with Adrian, in our previous segment of this. Of One-Winged Memories, this series I'm doing. Which, by the way, how do you feel about that title?
Here's the thing: when a man gets a wing, he becomes a monster.
True.
Are you not aware of this?
True. I was aware.
These may be monster memories.
Yeah, I think they might be.
Okay.
I think they for a bit of them might be. But yeah, no. Star Wars. This game has Star Wars all up in it. Like, and like this whole thing we've been talking about, like Disc 2 being like Cloud is MIA is like Han frozen in carbonite.
Absolutely.
Where like his friends have to go rescue the main character. Like all of this stuff is like, I mean, I just feel like Square was just like really liked Star Wars, or everyone just saw Star Wars as like the template for this is a story. This is like hero's journey, like 101 stuff.
Well, and like it is kind of the hero's journey, just like literalized, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that
but
makes
like also
sense.
like evil corporation and personal vendetta like being like tied together. Like there's a lot you could say about how Star Wars plays into. Cloud has a sword, lightsabers versus
it's
guns.
a kind of sword.
Yeah.
They were like, we can't make it light up and like zhuzh around, but like we'll just make it real big.
Yeah.
That
Also,
sword, I don't think we talk enough about how big that sword is.
The Buster?
It's huge.
It's pretty big. And you
It's a
know
big
that
sword.
thing. Well, I'm just wondering if there's like an in-universe explanation we could get about like the metal that's used. Is it like a lightweight metal that where it's like super sharp but like you can't break it?
I mean
know.
it's a like notorious sword, right? Because it gets passed down from Angeal to Zack to Cloud. So like it is a notable weapon, not just because it's huge and we are like, how does he carry that big sword? But like in universe, it is a notable weapon.
Yeah. And like dangerous to even walk around with, impractical at every level.
I don't know how he sits down.
Yeah, can't be easy to wield in a fight. Like also I feel like Final Fantasy VII was like my introduction to like steampunk, which is I think a thing that every young boy must face.
Every young boy must grapple with steampunk at some point in their life.
Because here's how I think steampunk goes. Everyone thinks it's cool right away.
Of course.
And then you go like, okay, wait. Is it actually that cool?
Is it actually that cool? And then you're like, how much
of my life do I want to devote to this?
That's right. Like how much leather can I own? You know?
Yeah, right. How many clocks can I put in my hats?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh man, a Portlandia, a show I do miss very much and wish we had an answer for today. But is that whole steampunk
so fucking
stuff
funny.
they do, and that is great. So yeah, anyways, Final Fantasy, it's everywhere now, and 7 is their Star Wars. Like, it is their, like, official, like, we're gonna take this one game and we're gonna blow out the universe and make prequels and make sequels and make all kinds of stuff, and now we're doing, like, a whole, like, metaverse thing with it.
Well, and like, kind of beyond that, like, you know, they would get to a point where they would start doing, like, direct sequels, to like, 10 obviously has 10-2.
Yes.
13 has like a whole series of games. 15 also has like the like little DLC things and like
that
the
was the
Kingsglaive
first
movie.
one that had DLC, I think, right? Like,
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
because 13 they wasn't DLC. It was like
there were 3 games,
another install. Yeah.
But like 7 is the first one where they were like, no, just like little spin-off games that explore are either like prequels or I don't know what Dirge of Cerberus is about.
It's a sequel in the vein of Advent Children, where it's like it's telling what's happening at a different time, like in that sequence of events.
But with the the First Soldier game, which is no longer playable now. And like the remake, Rebirth, and like the reunion version of Crisis Core, like they're all in on like continuing to explore Final Fantasy VII now.
Yeah, and I think it's like for me, it's all of this stuff is I try not to get too like cloud pilled about it, where I'm like,
yes,
some of it works so well, some of it doesn't work at all, some of it's really good, some of these characters these new ones really suck, and like it's not like it's not one size fits all with this stuff, where
not at all.
Some of it is like really inspired, like I just, because I'm replaying the remake right now. I played through the Honeybee Inn sequence. That's like S tier material.
It's like perfect, yeah.
It's one of the best sequences in video games, period. Mm-hmm. But then there's whole characters like the motorcycle guy, who I'm kill him, please.
Please get rid of him.
Yeah.
Have you played the intermission
yes.
in the Final Fantasy VII remake? So I just finished it yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Had never played it before, but I wanted something to play on my PlayStation Portal, and I was like, that's a perfect candidate for that. And I had a ton of fun playing that like little Yuffie side story.
Yeah, speaking of Dirge of Cerberus, you may not know this, but that whole little story you play is basically it's basically Dirge of Cerberus.
Interesting. Well, because I know that's what Nero and Vice are, mm-hmm. right? That those are, and the whole Deep Ground thing, that those are characters from Dirge of Cerberus.
They're all like different kinds of versions of what Vincent is, which I think originally he's just a vampire. Like the idea of Vincent Valentine was that he was a vampire, right?
He sleeps in a coffin, so I don't know what else.
I think even in the manual,
what else?
Because I reread that manual a ton of times, and I think it was like it's like vampire. It just like says he is. But these guys are like for other kinds of freaky.
There are other kinds of freaky, and just like everyone in these spin-off games, if it's a powerful character, it used to be a soldier of some kind.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Crisis Core, I think, is probably, I've been saying it, the best of the supplemental materials, the partnership materials to Final Fantasy VII. Like, Dirge of Cerberus is a game that I played through and is fine. I think you have to be a pretty diehard fan to like get it or like it.
I'd like to see them do it like because I've never played Dirge of Cerberus, but I would like to see them do like a repackaging of it in the same way that they did with Crisis Core.
Yes,
because I mean I have only played Reunion and not the original Crisis Core.
Did you play through the Reunion?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah. And like it feels so much like Remake. Like it was
the
shocking.
Combat
to me.
is very similar to Remake.
Yeah.
So fun, and it looks great too. I love Reunion, and okay, that's interesting. So then you because I played it a couple years ago on the Vita with the Super Gamer Boys. We did like a little games club thing with it, and really enjoyed my time with it. Really bummed I missed it when it came out originally. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
That would have been the time where my fandom was at a fever pitch, but. I didn't have the money. I didn't have a PSP. I didn't,
Yeah, I didn't have a PSP either, and also like that's sort of during the period where like I had stopped gaming a little bit, and like I start to get back into games via like the Wii and like
literally the same.
Yeah,
and
like
literally
the DS
like
Lite. Yeah,
Smash Brawl is out. We gotta play it at the dorms.
Yes. Then then I'm back in, but like. Yeah. So I was just kind of checked out for when Crisis Core came out initially.
Yeah, there's this. I was talking with Adrian about it, but there's this really beautiful Final Fantasy 10th Anniversary PSP edition that has like the logo, Final Fantasy VII logo on the back of it. And I'm just like, oh, I would have like if I was myself then, I would have
Right.
collected that in a heartbeat. I would have had
You
that.
were someone else then.
I was definitely someone else then.
Mm-hmm.
I was much more troubling then. I was much more I had some weird ideas.
You were cancelable back then, let's be honest.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Cancelable.
Same.
Yeah. My thoughts were rotten.
Mhm.
But yeah, so Crisis Core, I'm glad. Okay, so you played it somewhat recently then, because it just that reunion thing just kind of came out.
Mhm.
What did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It does one of my favorite things in video games, which is it allows you to opt into different like flavors of dealing with that game's systems.
Yeah.
So like there are times when I want to be like fully plugged into a game and like get in its story and having characters like chit chat with me as I'm exploring a space. And then there are other times where I'm like, I just want something to busy my hands and my brain while I listen to a podcast.
And they have those side missions for that.
The missions are
so great.
And at any point you can just be like, you know what? I'm just going to grind on missions, and there's seemingly no end to them.
Yeah.
They're just more and more and more.
Great rewards for them too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I loved, like that was one of the things that I mean, there are a million things to love about Tears of the Kingdom, but that was something that I totally loved about Tears of the Kingdom is if I want to just like, you know, have that sort of like mechanical occupation and like listen to music or whatever, I go down into the depths and I just fight shit. And Final Fantasy or Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion also gives me that.
Yeah, that title. Oof.
Did I do it right? Is it final? Is the 7 in the title, or is it Crisis Core Final Fantasy Reunion?
I hope. I think it's.
We don't know.
I don't know. Let's check.
Crisis Core.
The original game is called Crisis Core: Final Fantasy VII.
Okay, yes, it is Crisis Core. Final Fantasy VII : Reunion.
Yeah. And you have no experience with these other games, right? The Ever Crisis, or Before Crisis.
No, I mean it's no. A lot of those are mobile games, right?
Yeah.
Isn't one of those actually like a pre-iPhone mobile game?
One of them is, the Before Crisis. Ever Crisis is something that came out last year, and it's like you're playing through a bunch of these stories like on your phone, but like
have you played around with that at all?
A little bit. It's a gotcha game, so
all right.
it's a little like annoying, but it's free, and you can kind of go through it. And I don't really know.
I'd rather pay to be annoyed, frankly.
Yeah. When there's all these other, I mean, it's just like another way to play through the same kind of stuff. But yeah, so I played through Crisis Core. I really did like, I liked all the systems in it. I liked the character of Zack a lot in it.
Can we talk about Zack?
And I would also like to talk about the story, because that's something I didn't talk about with Adrian. But the story is kind of important, and I want to get to that. But what do you think of this guy, Zack Fair?
Zack Fair. I love the like characterization of him throughout as like the puppy of Soldier.
Sure.
That like he is in every way that Cloud is not. He is like enthusiastic and optimistic and like wants to be a hero, wants to make the world better.
Yeah.
And then like when you compare him to the man who stole his identity, like it makes Cloud come out that much more wanting, where you're just like, dude, you have no ambitions, you have like no love in your life.
Yeah.
And like Zack is like the exact opposite.
Yeah, and you like want like Zack and Aerith, as opposed to you feel bad for Aerith when she's with Cloud, because Cloud is like such a pud.
Such a wet blanket.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Zack is like again, he's just a good guy, and it's like really jarring in this universe too, because he's a kind of a rarity.
Yes, he's a rarity, like when compared to Cloud, but he's also a rarity like within the Soldier program, right? Because everyone else there is like a genetically engineered creature who's like fated to destroy the world.
Yeah, right.
And he's just like, I want to be like a sweet boy and be a hero.
Yeah. So yeah, Crisis Core sort of takes you, much in the same way the Star Wars prequels do, back to a time when Soldier was a little bit more. I mean, you don't get the sense from Final Fantasy VII, the original game, that Soldier is still a operating thing. Like,
right.
I think the remakes are trying to suggest that they are still, but that you don't see evidence of that in the original game. Like, it almost seems like a defunct program of like, okay, these guys, we messed up. These guys are too powerful and too crazy and whatever. Much like the Jedi, they're like sort of a dunzo thing.
They're definitely dunzo in like the original release of Final Fantasy VII. But I think trying to dig into the difference. The differences in remake and like, because you're right that that motorcycle guy that we were talking about before, he's Soldier, right?
Yeah, which it makes, he is a soldier, and his inclusion immediately makes your brain go, oh yeah, these guys must be floating around, like like
yeah, they're out here somewhere.
Yeah,
but like more than that, because like remake. And we'll get back to Reunion in a second, but like remake right at the end is like, oh, by the way, Zach's probably still alive.
Yeah.
And then at the end of intermission, it's like, no, he's definitely still alive. He made his way back to Midgar and is upset that Aerith isn't there.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I finished that yesterday and my jaw was on the fucking floor.
Yeah.
Like, could not believe that, how explicitly they're like, oh yes, he is here. And he's got like sort of unfinished business with your party.
Yeah, it's nuts, and I mean, well, first, I mean, I have so many questions, but like, what do you think of that direction? Like, I am personally a fan because I think it's like, let's blow this shit apart. Like, let's really pick it apart. Yeah.
No sacred cows. Let's, I mean, again, I'm poisoned by nostalgia, so I love these things when I see them, but no sacred cows. Let's change everything that we can. If we can do it in a way that will upset me, like, let's do it.
Yeah. But also, there are some, but like, sacred cows. So they're kind of having their cake and eating it too with like, here, we're going to give you a sequence right down the barrel. And then also, we're going to subvert this last part. And you're like, what? Why? It's like, well, you'll find out.
Because.
Yeah.
Or you won't, and you'll be confused, and that'll be the Final Fantasy VII experience.
Well, with in the original, in Reunion, Zach is, he's got all his buddies with him, and there's all these other soldiers that are around, right? And notably, Angeal is sort of this guy who looks like an older Zach. He's like his mentor. Yeah. And he has the original Buster Sword, and that was probably given to him by some,
Right, who knows where that Buster Sword came from?
Yeah,
but
there's another guy,
Genesis,
who is a little bit of the Sephiroth of that game.
He sort of is, but like there's Angeal and Genesis have like they grew up together. They have this like whole relationship.
Yeah.
So like you're sort of it's very much again just like it's a Star Wars thing, right? Like this is your Obi-Wan Kenobi and your Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And Zach is the Luke Skywalker in this scenario.
Yeah, and so not, I wouldn't say confusingly, but like also Sephiroth is there, and Sephiroth
is there,
right? Is his own deal. Like he is his own thing, and you go through the entire Nibelheim sequence with Sephiroth as Zack, which is, again, it echoes the original game and what you do there, and it's basically that sequence. You play through it, but as Zack,
right? As the person that actually experienced it. But the thing is, like, Cloud is also there because, like, he was. But like, it's so interesting to see him like cast in this like beta role next to Zack, and like he gets his little moment of like heroism where like he does get to attack Sephiroth, but like very little kind of comes of that. Sephiroth still just like gets away.
It's not quite in the original game. It almost makes it seem a little bit bigger of a deal where he gets stabbed and then he picks Sephiroth up by his own sword and tosses him off of a bridge. Right.
Yeah, tosses him into the life stream.
Right.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess that does like get rid of him for the time being, but like
it doesn't. Yeah, he's coming back.
He's going in that live stream. He's going to come out more live streamy.
It was arguably worse.
Yeah,
that you threw him in there because now he's just part of the whole deal.
Now he's swimming around in it.
Yeah, he's in our water. He's, he's
the fucking fluoride, man.
But so I wouldn't say that the Crisis Core has like a fractured sense of itself, but it is trying to do a lot. It's trying to tell its own story, but also dovetail into this new story that's going to come. And really, I don't know how much Angeal and Genesis matter either to what's going on.
I mean, yes. There's kind of no way to know until we get our hands on parts 2 and 3 of the remake. Because like they could be hugely consequential if Zach is still like a going concern in the new game, right? Like part of the reason that they're not big deals in the original Final Fantasy is that their whole story dead ends when Zach is killed, right?
Yeah.
But if he's not killed, then like him being the sort of like legacy of Angeal, and the sort of like third part of the like Loveless trio, which is another thing that we can dig into that I'm not sure I understand.
Well, it's a album by My Bloody Valentine.
Or it is an epic poem that Genesis is a fan of.
Could be that too. Could be that.
And we see like posters for it up in Midgar as like a stage show or like something. And I've seen those same posters in footage for the next game, Rebirth. So like I think they're going to be revisiting Loveless as a concept, which makes me think that Genesis and Angeal will totally be a part of what we're doing going forward.
Yeah. I think I think there's room for that here. If they, after playing through Intermission, knowing that they brought back, what's his name, Nero?
Yeah, Nero and Vice.
When I saw those pieces of shit show up, I was like, we are fucked here. We are wheels off. Like there is no reason to ever conjure these guys again.
Right.
And we totally have and have done away with them now. Like I think Nero's done, right?
Yeah, but I think Vice is still out there.
Vice might be, but like Nero is like the last thing you fight, I think, in Dirge of Cerberus. So it's like, well, that takes care of that whole. That
we've closed that loop.
We've closed that loop off, which is so maybe that is trying to tell us something about Dirge of Cerberus. Like, okay, we're not going to do that again.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, or he comes like
he comes
the thing
back,
with he comes back, or there's like a copy of him or whatever. Like because that's also the thing with Genesis is that you spend most of Crisis Core chasing down like clones or like cloned monsters that are Genesis,
which is kind of like really cool, I think, about that story. Like it's a whole body horror thing going on there, which is Final Fantasy VII has always had that with the Mako engineer.
Yeah, the Mako poisoning in the eye. Oh yeah, Hojo. Oh, and then like even built into like the heroes, right? Like Barrett has a fucking Gatling gun on his arm. Like that should be more horrific than we give it credit for.
Oh yeah, I bet it hurts.
Yeah,
I bet it hurts his stump.
I bet it's hot too.
Yeah. I don't see any fans on the what I think I can think of one of his weapons names, but they're all funny. So like Rocket Punch. So wait a minute. Let's talk for a minute about like how Zach's whole thing in Crisis Core like kind of interacts with the Sephiroth Cloud stuff, which is sort of the main canonized thing. Sephiroth has Genova in him, right? Like he wasn't born that way, but like reverse engineered, correct?
Yes.
Or
that's
was
my
he
understanding.
Born?
He's injected with. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
is that there is like a Genova project, right?
Yeah.
That is putting Genova cells into soldiers.
Yeah.
But there is another G project, which is the like, Angeal's mother's name is like Gilly or something like that.
Yep.
And that's like also what the G could stand for, because it's her cells that were used that she was injected with like cells of the ancients, and then like her, I don't know.
Yeah.
Her DNA is injected into both Genesis and Angeal at some point. But it feels like all of that misses Zach, right? That he's just like a dude, right?
Yeah, but Cloud was definitely in the test tube alongside Sephiroth at one point, right?
Well, and alongside Zach.
Alongside Zach. Wait, what are they doing in the test? Are they getting injected with stuff? Is that why?
Yes. So they're being like treated for, or they're being like tested with like Mako stuff. And that's after the events at Nibelheim, that like Hojo grabs them and
puts them
like
downstairs.
Throws them. Yes, that's right. You're going downstairs. They're down there for 4 years cooking in like Mako vats, and because Zach already has like some sort of Mako conditioning from his time in Soldier, he's able to like reclaim his consciousness, break out of the tube, and break Cloud out, and the two of them escape together.
Yeah. But Cloud is forever sort of fucked in that he's able to kind of talk to Sephiroth through, I think, the help of these genes that he's been injected with or something.
Yeah, well, and like, because Mako is part of like the life force of the planet, and so like Sephiroth being knocked into the life stream, like it all kind of connects in. It's the force.
I just wasn't sure how like genetically altered Cloud really is. Like,
it's not clear. I mean, he's got Mako eyes for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and he clearly is having some sort of hallucinatory thing with where he's seeing Sephiroth all over the place. He's hearing from him in his brain, or Genova. It's probably Genova, right? Like, don't we?
Probably,
isn't it just Genova? Isn't Sephiroth like not even really a entity anymore? It's just he's a puppet for Genova.
Well, when you say anymore, do you mean in the regular game or
in the
remake?
Regular game? Because in the regular game, he's been dead. He's right. But what we're seeing is like his spectral projection or something.
Right. The sort of life stream plus Genova constitution of a man that is Sephiroth.
Yeah, I always got the feeling that like, because when he kills Aerith, spoiler,
the first time we're dropping a spoiler warning.
He like drops from the sky, stabs her. So he's clearly a corporeal being.
Yes, right.
But then when he leaves, it's like a piece of Genova falls off of him, and it's like, that's what you fight. And it's like, I've always took that to mean like, oh, it's not really. What's really happening here is Genova, who isn't an ancient, right? Genova is
she's some sort of extraterrestrial thing. Yeah,
like an evil alien thing, and. But they thought she was an ancient. I think that was the story.
Yes.
I will say, if it sounds complicated in a bad way, I kind of think it's complicated in a good way. I do like that this is.
I think it's both. I think that because starting the original game with the premise that like Avalanche are like eco-terrorists and they're taking down like these power plants because it's like sucking the planet dry. Like. That always to me is like the problem is climate change or pollution or like whatever, and that is too many interconnecting systems and too many like too big of a problem for us to like actually conceptualize, right? We can't internalize how bad things could get, and we don't like the solutions are so few and hard, and so like the fact that the lore of this game is too complicated to wrap our heads around just feels right.
Yeah. And it also, and I will say too, I do admire these ideas. Whereas I will say when I'm watching a lesser fiction that's also complicated, I don't always, I'm always like, oh, this is complicated in a way where I also think these ideas are just sort of like milquetoast. And too much.
And too much, yeah. It's tough because like there definitely are times either in the story or just in my experience of the story where I do want to tap out, where I'm like, this is too much. These guys are too weird. I don't understand what Nero and Vice are.
Especially during the newer stuff. Like the old original game, I think, has less of that in there. So there's almost more to your imagination for you to fill in the blanks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and just for you to be like, that's an unknown thing. We'll never get it. And then like the supplemental games are like, but here's a little bit more about it. And you're like, no, that actually makes it worse.
Yeah, right.
But like that, shit. I lost whatever I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. I did it to myself.
Okay, here's a complaint I have about Crisis Core a little bit. You remember in Solo, I keep bringing up Star Wars. Remember in Solo, the movie Solo?
A Star Wars story.
When we got like why he named himself Solo, and you're like, oh, that is something we never ever needed. Like,
right.
There's a little bit of that going on in this game, I think. And to what you just said, actually, off of what you just said, is like this idea of that we like had a thing in the original game that was kind of cool that now gets over-explained, like why the bar is called Seventh Heaven. Like, we get an explanation for that in Crisis Core, and I'm like
it's in Sector 7.
Me.
We don't need
yeah.
Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. I didn't need that at all. It's like over-explained, like, why does Aerith like flowers? It's like, I don't know. I don't need that. You know,
But there's also the thing that it does where, like, knowing that Aerith had this, like, relationship with Zack, and, like, just the nature of that relationship makes me understand who Aerith is as a character so much more.
Yeah.
Like, against Cloud, she almost plays as, like, kind of, like, airy or like empty. Like I love Aerith, but I love her so much more with Zack. Like her personality makes much more sense after like seeing the two of them together. It's a little bit like in Solo, a Star Wars story, when they upload L7's consciousness to the Millennium Falcon, and that's why it has like an attitude in the modern movies, is because that's L7's consciousness in there. And that's like, I'm like, oh, that's actually a good way of doing this, because that's not really a question I had, but the answer is compelling.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way of putting it. Like, just make the answer really compelling, or make it matter so much more than just being like, Solo, I'm alone, and
right.
You know, it's like that stinks. Aerith, I want to bring up as a character who I didn't care about when I was a kid and find way more compelling as an adult. I don't know what that phenomenon is, but she's like playful and very mischievous. Like,
yes,
like,
well, and
in the original game too, like she's she's very like, whereas Tifa is a little bit more go along to get along, I think. Like, and I only compare them because the world does, you know.
No, but I mean, like you're right, especially when you compare her against the other playable characters in Final Fantasy VII. Everyone else is so fucking dour, right? And then Aerith like is allowed to be like the light of that world.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know, in closing this out, we have this story of Zack here in Crisis Core that's where he's basically trying to like solve the mystery of like what's happening with his buddy Angeal in Genesis and their relationship and genetics, and there's Lazard is like the director, I think, of the soldier program at the time.
Yeah,
and there's also the science. There's a Hojo surrogate there too, who's like the scientist guy. And it all kind of culminates to this big fight with Genesis, right? Where you have to like take down Genesis, and then it gets back to the rest of the story, which is like the Sephiroth stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
and like it's tough because like I do think that the specifics of the Genesis Angeal Zack story does get too convoluted and does get like too just like fucking crazy. It's kind of just enough to know that there is this like epic war between like two friends who grew up together and whose lives are like twisted by the Shinra Corporation and by the soldier program. And like here is what lies in the wake of their conflict is Zack. And like, so that for me, like, too complicated, and I sort of hate that it's that complicated. But what comes out the other end of it is worth it.
If you were in the writer's room
Yeah.
for Rebirth,
Oh God.
and they're like, Patrick, we got everyone's on the table.
Okay.
Anything is on the table.
Mm-hmm.
What is a good use of Zach now that he's here in this story? Like, how are we gonna use Zach to our benefit here? Like,
right. I mean, I think you put him in Fortnite.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Give him a gun.
Put him in Fortnite. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. What do you do with?
Does he fight Cloud? Are they enemies? Are they
no?
Two
they
buddies?
Can't
be. Is there two Buster Swords?
The two Buster Swords. No. Oh, God. I feel like he can't fight Cloud, but I almost feel like he can't come into contact with Cloud.
I like that. There's like some sort of like maybe those ghosts have to separate them constantly.
Yeah, those ghosts. Do those ghosts still exist, or did we kill them at the end of?
I hope
remake?
so, because they're not necessarily a great part of that remake. I think.
You just like as you encounter them throughout.
As I'm replaying it, I'm kind of like. They also don't look that compelling. Like
No,
their designs are kind of bad. So it's like
yeah. It's like if you were doing like a high school play version of The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yep.
Like that's what your Dementors would look like.
Yeah, they're bad Dementors.
They're bad Dementors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what to actually do? I don't know. And that's the thing that has me most excited about. Not most excited. I'm excited to play Rebirth, just whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like I literally have no idea what the dynamic of having Zach alive what that means for the world, what it means for Cloud, what it means for Aerith, and what it means for like, because the version of Sephiroth that's running around right now too, that's also not the version that like the version of Sephiroth that's in remake is aware of the multiple realities.
Yeah, and Aerith is. I think we can surmise that Aerith is too, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't remember clocking that, but I believe you.
It is clearer to me now in this playthrough that she like will say things like she doesn't say this, but she might as well say like, you know, I'm not going to be around forever, like stuff like that.
Yeah,
like she
sure.
gives you little like clues that maybe she understands. I think she can also she's talking to something a lot in it.
Oh yeah, yes.
And that's probably fate or whatever. Like, I don't know, but
I love how little we know these things that we love.
yeah. But again, it's like seeing almost like if an alien brought us their art, we'd be like, we like a lot of this. Like, this is neat. I don't get
is cool.
all
Show
of
me
it.
more.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna predict one thing.
Yeah.
That Zach and Tifa are gonna have a exchange. At some point. Yeah.
Are they gonna hook up?
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna go that far, but I wonder if there's gonna be a moment of like,
whoa,
of like, hey, Zach's actually kind of better than Cloud or whatever. Like, I don't know. I predict that could happen.
Yeah, that's a great prediction. I love that.
They've met before. They've
met before. Yes, right. He's mostly seen her in that cowboy hat. So,
which is god awful. So he probably doesn't have something to do with her. Is that the craziest thing I've ever said? Okay. Needless to say, super excited. I want anything to do with this Rebirth game. Pre-ordered it. Special edition. Oh,
very excited. Special edition. What's in that special edition?
It's got a lot of the same stuff the remake special edition had, which was like, you know, posters, a nice book, a nice like little booklet to go with it. You know, it's got the steel book.
Yeah.
Casing, and it comes in a nice box. It'll look good on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm probably just going to go digital, I think.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then when they put out an intermission like thing for this, I will hop on that immediately too. I'm kind of just in it for the content here.
Totally. Patrick, anything else about Crisis Core before we want to hit the road? I mean, is there anything you're like, no, we didn't talk about? We just didn't talk about Director Lazard enough. We need to talk more.
No,
about...
we talked too much about Director Lazard. We barely talked about like the combat in the game.
Oh yeah, sure, which we totally can.
Which is super, because like it is, especially coming off of the original Final Fantasy, is so much more like action based, and even more than Remake, right? There's no time where you like slow down time to do like your abilities or cast spells or whatever. You just have to do them in real time.
Which I love. I really
love it too.
That.
I really, really love it.
Yeah.
And like it's hard when you like put it down and then come back to it and you're like, what fucking button do I hold to like bring up this menu, and like how does this Buster Sword proficiency work and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, it's more than even the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I feel like just getting into fights is fun.
It's so fun, and I love the way I love it in the hands, especially. It's like mechanically so satisfying. I remember over Christmas last year being like, just like running drills on it, just being like, this is awesome. And I could, if I only did this, it'd be fun. I don't get and I don't think anyone quite gets it, the roulette aspect of it, or like the slot machine aspect of it.
Right. That's just sort of like running in the background all the time, and every now and then it'll be like push L and R, and you get to do, clicking on the thumbsticks, and you get to do like a big attack.
It's hard not to feel like it's cheating a little bit, like it's like in the background there to just like really like, no, you're gonna win this, just like you're winning.
Yes. Yeah. But like there are fights that do get
hard,
like difficult enough where you're gonna need to like just stay alive long enough. I sort of actually feel that way about some of the fights in Final Fantasy VII Remake, where like I don't know what triggers when that like summon thing appears.
Yeah, that's kind of similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it feels like it's another limit break, but you don't see that.
You don't see it, and you don't really know how it fills up. Yeah.
How do you feel about the summoning in... I don't like it in Crisis Core, I'll say that. Like, I don't like that it's connected to the slot machine thing, and then
I don't care for that either.
But I
also the way like the game sort of like stutters into like the super long animation that then you can skip, and then it gets you to just like the end of the animation, which also feels too long.
Right.
But I think it's pretty good in Remake.
Yeah.
In that like it's active the whole time, right?
I like seeing him on the battlefield. I like seeing
so cool,
Ifrit like running around, and you're like, and then anyone can trigger his moves. It feels cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's just a hell of a lot to like about that remake. I mean, again, as I just finished up the section where the plate falls, so I'm pretty far into it, and it's like, it's just like really everything is just really well done. Everything is really well. I mean, not everything, but most things are really well done, well told, and it looks so freaking good, especially on PS5, which I didn't. This is my first time playing the up-resed version of it or whatever.
Oh. Yeah, I guess I haven't. I played Intermission, partly on 5 and partly on my Portal through the 5.
Yeah.
Or my 5 through the Portal, whatever.
Right.
And it doesn't
that Portal
matter.
works. Which way
I used them both.
Yeah. You still liking that Portal, by the way?
I'm loving it.
Should I get one? Is it a recommend?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it is a recommend. You have to have a headphone solution for it, because if you are using just like a wired pair of headphones, even at its volume turned down the lowest, it's too loud.
Too loud?
Too loud, yes. Like,
I did not expect you to say that.
Too loud. If you are like, if you're trying to at all play in a room like with some, like you're watching TV with your wife or whatever, or like the playing in bed scenario, the volume just a no-go, because it's too loud coming out of the speakers or too loud going out of wired headphones. And also
so funny.
It also doesn't work with Bluetooth headphones. So the headphone solution, which I have done because this is a different disease that I have. I have the Pulse Explore earbuds that are made by Sony. And so they use the PlayStation Link technology it's not Bluetooth, but it's just like Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And that sound balance is great. And then I can also have those Bluetooth connected to my phone at the same time. So I can be listening to game audio and a podcast at the same time through the Pulse Explorer earbuds.
You're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to come
diagram
over
this
and
for you.
you're gonna have to teach me. Give me a tutorial on this. This
Yeah.
seems very. It seems like something that I could really get my ears around.
It's Apodaca and I have been texting about it because he is upset about the headphones, and I think
so it is universal.
yes
This problem.
It's a universal problem, but the solution is just a $200 pair of earbuds. That's it.
That's nothing.
It's fine.
It's fine. Wow, I'm shocked. Yeah, what a weird little gadget, this PS Portal. No Bluetooth headphones.
No Bluetooth. But oh man, it's so, because it doesn't really have any guts in it, right? Like it has no processing power of its own. It's so light. Have you held one?
No, I do want to see it.
The next time we hang out, you should play
which
with
we
mine
got to
a little
do, by the way. I mean, we're due. I think at least you, me, Connor, and Marcus Marin.
Yes,
are due for
it's not Mark Marin.
Are due for like we gotta go game. We gotta do something. We gotta play something.
Yeah, we got a boy hang.
Well, Patrick, we're done. Crisis Core is in
we're going out on boy hang.
Yeah, boy hang. Crisis Core is in our rear view. The next time we will interact with this kind of stuff, it'll be end of the month. We'll be doing it in the Rebirth game.
Leap Day, yeah.
Why don't you plug? Where do people find you? What do you want people to know?
Well, they can find me on the Nintendo Cartridge Society podcast, but also, Jeremy, I've got a book coming out. The first issue of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle source book comes out on February 21st. That is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles encyclopedia that's all about the IDW Ninja Turtles. If you are interested in that, pre-order it from your local comic book store.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you got it? Is there like a nice hardcover edition of that?
There will be, yeah. So the 4 issues, the first one comes out in February, and then every 2 months, which takes us into I don't know, June. And then the hardcover collection of all 4 issues, which by the end will be about 400 pages.
Dang, Patrick.
Yeah, I know. Is coming out in November, I think.
That is what and you're and at this point, like, you're done. It's just like gonna roll out.
No, I am not done.
Yeah. Gotcha.
The first 2 issues are locked. I'm working on issue 3 at the moment.
Okay.
But it's each issue like sort of tackles it's all the IDW Ninja Turtles. So it's from like the last 14 years of publishing from them. And there's always like one mainline series and then like a supplemental series to sort of like flesh out the story. Yeah. It covers almost 300 issues of comics. And I approached it in a very like narrative way. So like it is both a reference book and a satisfying read from cover to cover.
Wow.
So like it's very exciting. They're relaunching with a new Ninja Turtles #1 this summer, written by Jason Aaron. So it's gonna be fucking awesome. But if you want he's keeping the continuity from before. So if you want an easy way to catch up, my encyclopedia is going to be that.
That is incredible. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking that out. Was a huge fan of the IDW stuff. I mean, I went through like 2 or 3 years of collecting them, or they were in my poll.
It so much. Yeah.
It's I always just like love the art. I thought was just so killer on a lot of IDW stuff too. I just like really enjoyed.
Bobby Curnow, the editor of the series, who's no longer with IDW, but he was so like aggressive at getting like cool not new necessarily, but like artists on the rise.
Yeah.
And like grabbing like Matea Santoloco before like everyone knew who he was. Sophie Campbell, who then went on to write issues 101 through 150. and just like a ton others of like super Junie Bai. Like there's just so man, I could go on forever about it.
You could talk turtles forever.
I could talk turtles forever.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's exciting. Congratulations on all that, because that's really
Thank you.
special. Yes, and of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Ocarina of Crime, and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/SuperNPCRadio. Our Mass Effect 1 Games Club is still currently running. We're actually getting towards the end of that. We only have a few episodes left. It's been really special, really fun. So come check that out, and then be on the front lines for when we're picking our next Games Club. You can get on over there and vote. I can't tell you what the theme is for Q2.
You could tell me though.
I'll tell you off air. But needless to say, I was the decider, and we
like
know
George
what it
W.
is.
Bush. Yeah.
The great decider. Be back next week. We're going to talk next week about more of like the main Final Fantasy VII game from 1997. Bye-bye until then.